Great. So today what we're going to talk about are opportunities. And there are a lot of things we could talk about when it comes to opportunities. So I'm going to try to briefly touch over a lot of it, but obviously I won't dive into everything. So we'll start off by looking at the opportunity record itself. So if we just go to CRM opportunities. All right, you can see a couple here, and so I've got this one set up where you've got the basic opportunity here, and the best way to work opportunities. There's lots of things to do here, but ultimately the biggest thing that most people are after are the sales pipeline, right? So when you've got an opportunity, right, so a potential sale, and let's say you've got a sales team or whatever, right, you're going to use this pipeline to kind of track the progress of your sales. So, sales managers can come in and take a look at, where people are in your funnel or in your pipeline. You've got a great view of where people are in your pipeline and all these different kinds of things. And there's lots of reporting that goes around this as well. So with all that being said, I'm going to talk a little bit about some other things we can do with opportunities as well. So not only can you use opportunities for tracking sales, but pretty much if you're like tracking a project, right? Let's say you're a coach and you have a very specific coaching plan that you go through. Maybe you've got 15 calls or 5 calls that you go through with a customer, or there's 5 stages that you go through. Then you can set these up to those different stages. So if you've got 20 different customers and they're all in different stages, then this is another great way that you can kind of keep track of them, is by setting up the sales pipeline. Okay, so before we really dive into how to set up the sales or how to work an opportunity, because there's a couple of different ways to do that, I want to talk about how to actually set up opportunities. So for that we'll go to main nav, CRM, and settings. And under settings, we're going to go to sales settings. And we'll start here at opportunity defaults, right? So the first thing that we need to make sure that we understand is who we can assign opportunities to, okay? We can assign opportunities to the person, or to anybody who's in the user group here, right? So you can choose the user group that you want. It's default to sales rep, okay? So if you want to be able to choose somebody else, right, then you'd have to come in here and you just choose a different user group. Okay, so that's how you determine who you can assign opportunities to. And just in case, I'll kind of show you where you find those. So if you go to your profile and you go to user groups, or if you went to somebody else's profile, right, you can see here where the user groups are, right? So you can select a user group and hit manage or hit add, and that will put them into that particular group, right? So only people who have the sales rep group can be assigned opportunities in this particular case, because that's where it's set up down here. All right, so now let's go to the sales pipeline, right? The meat and potatoes of the opportunities. So here in the sales pipeline, we've got a couple of different fields, right? We've got the opportunity name, the stage name, right? The stage in the pipeline. We've got the target number of days that somebody should be in there, probability of the sale closing, the order, right? So you'll note that these are all, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 7. And you always want to leave some space in between. I'll talk about those. And then I'll get into checklists and then a way to delete, okay? So I'm going to bounce back and forth between here and the opportunity itself, okay? So you'll note that the order in which they show up in my list, right, it starts with new opportunity, then contacting and engaging and goes down, is the same as the order that they show up here, right? And that's all based on this column here called the order. And so you always want to make sure that you've got plenty of space between each number. So here we've got 10, 20, 30. So I got 10 digits in between each. A lot of people actually go to hundreds, right? So this would be 100, 200, 300, 400. And the reason for that is, like example down here where I've got stage 2, right? If I have a stage that, maybe I didn't set up initially, right? I've gone through some things and now I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I need to add a stage in. I've got room to put the extra stage in, right? So I've got between 50 and 60. So I stuck it in here at 55, right? Because I had room to do it and I didn't have to, recalibrate my entire, I didn't have to go through and change everything, right? So that's one thing to consider, right? Is the order. And the reason that order is important sometimes is when you're running reports on when people move from one stage to the next stage, but more importantly, is because of these checklists here. So let's look at this qualified stage, okay? When you move somebody into the qualified stage, right, let's say that, you've got some settings set up where you're like, okay, they're qualified, but they can't move out of qualified until they've done these two things, until they've met certain criteria. So what we do is we set up, this checklist where we can put, met criteria 1, met criteria 2. And then we've got this required piece where it says true and false. So here, if we edit the first one, I say that it's required is true. And here for the second one, it's not. So I didn't make that one required. And then the order here is exactly the same as before. So you can put order to it, or it'll just go in the order that you typed it in. But it's the same as the other. And so where that comes into play is here. If we come to this stage, right, let's say I move into the stage qualified and I save this opportunity. Now you see that there's these two check boxes here all of a sudden, okay? And one of them is required, right? So if I check the unrequired one to say, yeah, I did that, and now I want to move to the next one, all right, and this is where the order comes into play. If I try to move forward in the order, right, I move to stage 1 or stage 2, right, I get this error. It says, you must check all required steps before you can move. Right? And so I haven't checked that one yet, so it's not going to let me move out of the stage until that box is checked, right? Which is a great way to either A, remind yourself, that you need to do certain things before you can move forward in a particular stage, or, it's a great way to, keep accountability with your sales team. So those are a couple ways that you could do that. Okay, now let's kind of move backwards here to the probability. We use the probability here is mostly for trying to figure out reporting on, or I guess predicting, right? Trying to predict how much a opportunity is worth to us, right? So let's say that we've got this opportunity that is worth, $625 if we close it, okay? So we can pull a report that will show, all the opportunities in our entire pipeline. And what this is saying is if that opportunity is in stage new opportunity, then there's a 5% chance that we're going to close that. So we only factor in 5% of that $625 when we're looking at our projected or our forecasted, revenue. Okay. And then obviously as we move further and further along the stages, then we get, higher and higher. So here we're saying, once they're qualified and we get them to, stage 1, right, we've got an 85% chance that we're going to close the deal. So now we go ahead and now we're going to go ahead and go on to the, to the next stage. And so we're going to take 85% of the, of the total of that $625. So that's what the percentage is for. So it's for the broadcasting or the forecasting. Sorry, can't talk. It's for the forecasting of your revenue. So there's certain reports for that. Okay. So now let's go back into the opportunities. All right. We kind of talked a little bit about, these things over here and how we can kind of move forward in, just basically going down the sales pipeline. All right. Now, as far as setting up your opportunities, right, one of the best things that we want to do is use this part, right? This right here is, I think, one of the most important pieces of the opportunity record altogether. What we want to do, let's say that we made our qualifying call, right? And we've got criteria 2, but we haven't quite made criteria 1 yet. So what we could do is hit add note about this last action, right? So here we could say, made call, met criteria 1, never mind my spelling, yeah, contact will do X to meet criteria 1. Okay. So they met criteria 2. All right. So there we go. So we typed that up there into the, what did you do? And then down here, right, we say, okay, well, here's the next action notes, right? Next action notes are, call back and check on, spreadsheet or intake form, or, check on form, right? So they need to fill out some type of form. So we're going to call back and check on form, right? And when are we going to do that? Right? We just go ahead and choose the date that we're going to do that. So we're going to do that on, September 8th. And we're going to do that at, let's say we're going to do that at 10:30 a.m. Okay. So we could do all this and then we hit save, right? And so now we've got the next action notes right here. So we know what we need to do next. And we've got the next action date and time as well. So we know when we're going to do it. And we can have a saved search on our dashboard that has all of our opportunities, right? And we can sort it by stage if we want to, or we could sort it by next action date, which is pretty awesome. So now you can have, the opportunities, like the opportunity name with the next action date right there on your dashboard, along with, the next action notes. So that way on your dashboard, you've got a very quick, easy look at who am I talking to next and what do we need to do and what stage are they in, right? So you could have all those things right there on your dashboard in one spot. And then if you've got a one stage, like a particular stage where you need to do a lot of work with people, even though you don't have like a next action date set up, then you can run another report. Let's say that's on the engage stage, right? Maybe you can run another report or stage 2 of all the people who are in stage 2, right? So there's other things that you can do there. And then finally, like you can also create these, custom fields in here as well. And you can sort by custom fields, which is also kind of cool. So lots of different things you can do here as far as reporting to make your life a lot easier when you're trying to track a sale or trying to track a project. So those are some great uses for, opportunities. So now let's talk about what we can do with opportunities, right? Why is it such a big deal to be able to, have this, pipeline here and have all these stages and kind of track, right? So for one, right, you've got reporting and tracking and knowing, organizing exactly where people are in each stage. But secondly, you can run tons of automation from this. So if we go to the campaign builder, okay, and I'll go into this test campaign. All right, so the things that we can do here are as such. We can create, you can pull in the new task, right? And so we're going to use moves and opportunity. And we're going to go ahead and we got to name it, right? So we'll call it new opportunity, or well, I guess we'll call it what were the stages? So the second one is contacting. Okay, so we'll call this contacting. Okay, and save, right? And we're going to go ahead and put this into moving into contacting. Okay, so that means that as soon as I move them from new opportunity and I move them into contacting, then they're going to get what's ever inside this sequence. Okay, so we'll call this, first, we'll call this contacting emails. Okay, again, ignore my spelling. All right, so we're going to put this in the contacting emails, right? So let's say that it's your process that when you get the new opportunity, you're going to make a phone call, right? You make your phone call, you leave a message because you didn't get a hold of them. So then you go ahead and move them into contacting stage. And as soon as you move them into contacting stage, now you're going to send them an email. And that email can say whatever you want it to say, but, let's say, you have it say something like, hey, I just tried to call you, wanted to send you a message, blah, 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 maybe set some expectations, let them know what's going on. So there's lots of things that we can do there. And then I'm going to share an awesome blog with you in the email that I send after this. That was, it's on MonkeyPod Marketing's blog, and it was written by Renee Brown, and it's amazing. It's an amazing blog. It talks about the ladder method, which I'm going to explain briefly here, but it's really good. So we're going to call this out of contacting. Okay, so we're going to move out of the contacting stage. All right, so we go in here, and we'll call this out of contacting. Okay, and I'll explain why we want to have both of those in there. And we'll go ahead and bring in a couple more, and we'll call these stages, I'm sorry, so we'll call this into engaging. Okay, we'll move this in here, and out of engaging. All right, fantastic. All right, and again, we'll just set those up the same way, right? So this one's out of engaging, save, and into engaging. All right, so, and then again, you can put whatever you need to put in there. And so here's the reason that we set this up this way is, just imagine that for every stage, we've got these things going down. And in stage one, let's say that we've got 2 or 3 emails in here. So when we move from contacting into engaging, right, that's gonna, because we've got the move out of, it's gonna pull them out of that sequence, right? So they'll stop getting any emails or anything else that's in this sequence, and they'll come into this sequence, which is great. So now they're gonna start getting the emails and the marketing that we have in this sequence here. But let's say we move down about 3 or 4 steps. Let's say that we get to qualifying, and maybe they disappear on us, right? Something happens, right? There's lots of reasons that maybe a sale, like everything is going well, and then something happens and the guy disappears, and we gotta get back engaged with them. So maybe we need to move back to contacting or back to engaging, right? Maybe we're talking to them, but whatever. So now we can actually move backwards, right? We can move out of whatever stage we were in qualifying and move back into engaging. And then we go back there and we start sending them those emails again, or whatever it is. Because sometimes it just happens that we got to move back backwards to a stage. And not all of these need to have emails in them, right? Sometimes we might just want to like, let's say engaging, right? Like it would make sense that we didn't have any emails in there because we're engaging with them. So we didn't necessarily need any automation for that stage. And so we had another stage where we did have a lot of automation going, and we're getting ready to send them a proposal as part of our automation, but something happens and that guy's going to be out of town or out of the loop for the next month. And so we're like, oh, we need to stop that. There's lots of ways to do that, but now, because we're out of the mix, now we can move him back to engaging. And he's completely, like, we don't have to worry about those emails going. He can come back in here, where if we had built this out linearly, we wouldn't be able to do that. And again, I'll send you the link to that blog. And it will, it'll make a lot more sense exactly what I'm talking about there as far as how that works. So I'll show you a quick glimpse of the difference between the two. All right, so there she is, Renee Bovey. So if you've got the ladder method here versus the linear method, and so what ends up happening is once you have to move from a stage, a below stage to a stage above, right? In the ladder method, no problem. In the linear method, you start having an issue because now they could be here and here, because they don't come out as easily as they go in. So that's just a quick picture of what's going on. You could definitely read this blog and get a much clearer picture, which I highly recommend. It's going to be in the email that I send out after this. But that's kind of the general overall of opportunities. Now let's go take a look at. I want to take a look at some opportunity reports. So under CRM again, reports. There are a lot of good sales reports here. One of them is the call log report. So when we do this one, we can hit the start over button, and we can say, okay, let's do all the reports from August until until today, and we want to do the call reports for just me. All right, we hit search, and so this includes all of the call reports that, all the calls that I've made in opportunities, right? And where this comes from, again, is when I click this little button here, and whatever I type here is what kind of goes into that call log, right? And then down here is what's the next action, but this is what I just did. And so this report is a good way, and you can sort it by completed date. This report is a good way to be able to kind of go back and see like history on what you've done, with certain content. Okay, so that's a good report to know about. And then we can go to, again, since we're already under CRM, we can go to reports and sales. All right, and let's see, another good sales report is the opportunity pipeline summary. So this one, we can look at like the average days in a stage, so that when we're creating our pipeline, let's go to, CRM settings. So that when we're creating our pipeline and we're trying to figure out like, how many days should someone be in a specific, stage, right? Like I didn't talk about this earlier. So target number of days, there's a number of days that someone should be in a particular stage. So, as we're going along, right, maybe qualifying takes a long time. So somebody could stay in there for 14 days. And stage 2 takes a long time. So somebody could be in there for 14 days, right? But the rest of them are, from new opportunity contacting, right? They should only be in new opportunity for a day, right? Maybe contacting, maybe you give yourself 7 days to get a hold of them, right? So this tracks the number of days that they should be in an opportunity. And this report, all right, the opportunity pipeline summary tells you like how many, where this is kind of where you can start getting those numbers from, right? So after you've been running this for a while, you can see, oh, okay, people generally only stay in this stage for like 4 or 5 days, right? And that keeps our cycle going and whatever. And so then, right, we can go to opportunities again and start running some searches, right? So this is where it starts getting really cool, is when you start running these searches. So I hit start over again here. So here we can search for, let's say we only want to search for opportunities that are owned by, Kevin, and then we could pick a particular stage if we wanted to, or we could say, they're not in a particular stage, and you've got some of this up here. Then let's come over here to opportunities, and this is where we get lots of other options. We can come down here and say, let's see, like we've got like the target move date, right? So the target move date customer interval, right, or days overdue. So days overdue is when we talk about, again, I'm going to go back to the stages here. All right. So when we're in the pipeline, right, let me go back there real quick. CRM settings. So when we go back to the sales pipeline, right, and we talk about these target number of days, when we say days overdue, right, we can say like engage. If they're engaged more than 3 days, right, we can come back to this search and say, all right, if they're engaged for more than, let's say 1 day overdue, right, so that means that they've been in that stage for a total of 4 days, then I want them to show up on this report, okay? If you delete it, then that's not in there, but you can kind of put that in there and say, oh, hey, somebody must have fallen through the cracks because they've been in this stage for, let's say, in this case, right, they've been in that stage for 7 days, right? So they've definitely fallen through the cracks. Or these guys, right, the longer stages, right? Maybe you want to know when somebody's been in there for 20 days. If they've been in there for 20 days, then we know that they fell through the cracks, and we need to, go back and touch with them and, figure out what's going on. But that's a great way to set up a report to keep anyone from falling through the cracks. Okay. But let's go ahead and we can do a search, just a general search. and go to columns and make sure that we've got next action date and next action notes in here. All right, so I can move these up. Next action date, next action notes. All right, this is like a custom field that I can put in there, right? But then I can move up stage as well. Okay, so let's say these are the most important things to me. I can hit search, and then I can come over here and click that little button here, and now I can sort by next action date. Okay, so if I had all the dates in here, then I could just kind of sort by that. So that way I can have the most recent, right, the one that is coming up next, I could have that ready right here. And then next action notes, I could have those, I could see all those as well. So this is just a great way to be able to work your contacts. And you can also save this search and put it on your dashboard. So now your dashboard is this living, breathing thing that can really help you start moving forward with your opportunities. And you know, if I come to this stage or to this view here, I could actually start working my opportunities as well. So from here, I can move stages, right? It's got my check boxes here that I need. So I could just click those, click save, and then move the stage. I could take my next action notes right here. I could set my next action date right there as well. If I had custom fields over here, I can enter all my custom fields, and all this stuff is totally customizable, and then I can move down to the next, right? If I need to apply note templates, I can do that. If I need to apply if I need to apply or do anything with tasks, I have those right here as well. So really using opportunities is a really powerful way to be able to work through your sales process and get a lot of things done very efficiently. So hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have any questions on this stuff, go ahead and let me know. I know it wasn't set up as a great classroom style course, but this is what we're doing kind of on the fly here, and I think what you guys got today was super helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and go ahead and take any questions that you guys might have now.